Hey guys, so earlier this week, I started working on this fun little project that I've got going on right here. It's a little chat room that uses sockets in Python to communicate and broadcast messages to other people in the chat room. So I'm going to walk you through the code on the server side and then on the client side, and then I'll demonstrate how it works for you. All right, so first of all, we're going to be using the sockets in the threading library, and those are super important here. We need multiple threads to be able to handle multiple connections from different clients. And so that's why we're using threading, and then sockets helps us to be able to communicate on a host and a port. And that's like the crux of this task here. So let me walk you through some of these functions. I have some globals set up here where we're going to hold a list of clients and a list of nicknames. And so each client will have a nickname and they'll just line up on the indexes is how we're doing it. We're creating a server object that's binding to this host and port. And then it starts to listen with this command for anyone to connect to it. And then these functions I've got a get nickname. It just gets the nickname for a given client, a broadcast message. This one sends a message to everyone else except for the sender. Then I have a send message, and this one sent specifically to one person. So if somebody in the chat room says like @Bob, it will only send it to Bob, or you could chain it with multiple people. I've got a disconnect, and we use that in the case of if a connection goes bad. And then we have the handle and receive functions, and these are the most important. We'll actually start with the receive. So this says, all right, the server started listening, and then we have a while true loop. So this is the event loop that the server uses. It gets a client and an address when it accepts a connection, and then it shows that we connected to them. And then the client, it's going to send, the server is going to send to the client a special keyword, and that's Nick. And that just means, hey, you started a connection with me. In order for you to be connected to this server, you had to send me a nickname first. And so the client will do that. We'll add that to the nicknames and clients list respectively. And then we'll broadcast out a message like, hey, somebody new has joined the chat. And we're going to start a thread for handling that client so that each client will get its own thread. And that's what this function does. It says we get a message, and if we aren't sending it to a specific person, then broadcast it. And then if we have an exception, we'll disconnect. So that's the server. Really quick run through. And then on the client side, it's a lot simpler. We're going to start by getting a nickname input from the user, and we'll connect to our server on the same port, host and port. And then we're going to start by sending our nickname right here to our server. And then we're going to start a thread for receiving from the server and a thread for writing to the server. And you'll see the write thread targets this function and the receive thread targets this function. And with the receive thread, we're getting a message from the server. And if it is our special keyword, which is Nick, then it will send the nickname that we got at the beginning. Otherwise, we're going to print the message that we get, which would be other people's messages. And then the write, this is getting input from the user saying, hey, if they put in something, convert it into a message and send it. So let's see this in action. So I've got 4 terminals up here. We'll start the first one, and this is going to be the server. So, okay, server's listening on that port. Then we're going to start a whole bunch of clients. So client 1, choose a nickname. It's going to be Bob. As we can see, the server connected to Bob and Bob connected to the server. Then we're going to start another one where we'll do another client. And this one's going to be George. George is connected. And also you can see that Bob is notified that George is connected. And we'll start, actually, we'll leave this client for a little later so you can see how that works. So Bob's going to send a message. hey, how's it going? And as you can see, it's right there. Let's get our other client up and going now. And this is going to be Sally. Sally joined the chat, and so you can see, even though they're mid-conversation, it still alerts them that somebody's joined the chat. Again, Bob can say, hey, Sally, welcome. And everyone gets that message except for Bob because it was a broadcast. And then George can say, nice to hear from you, Bob. And everyone gets that message. But let's say Sally wants to send a specific message to Bob. Maybe Sally thinks Bob's cute and she doesn't want George to know it. So we can do, hey, actually, let's do it this way, at Bob. How's it going, cutie? George doesn't get the message, but Bob does. But Bob's gonna let the cat out of the bag here. He's gonna say at Sally and at George. Sally. As you can see, since we chained it, they both got the messages. So that's the basics of how it works. You can really just type anything that you want and it will keep going. Each one has its own thread, so they won't conflict with each other, which is really cool. You could technically have all these running at the same time. I just can't put input in for them all, but the server can handle it. So yeah, that's my project for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it.